If science, by definition, allows for more than one opinion, otherwise you merely have the will of one man, which is the basis of cult.
If it's not in frame, it doesn't exist.
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not gonna take this anymore!
I'm funny how? I mean funny like I'm a clown, an illusion?
Where you been?
Drunk.
Wendy, darling, light of my life.
What is your one purpose in life?
To explode, of course.
I like death with sex. How about you, Casey? You like sex with death?
Yeah, so fuck off and die.
Yeah. Talking about a streetcar named Desire, dude.
Dude, so, we talked about it a little bit before, and we're not, like, super familiar with Brando. And we keep, like, watching over time more Brando movies because they're classics, right? We watched The Godfather, which we'd both seen, but, like, we watched The Godfather a couple of years ago. And then literally last week, we watched Superman, which had Brando in it. So it's like, but we haven't really, and I mean, maybe I'm not speaking for you entirely, but I haven't seen any of the like younger big Brando roles. This Streetcar Named Desire and like On the Waterfront being the two big ones. It's like everything I know is like this Godfather and Apocalypse Now and shit. And so it's like I thought that his voice in those roles, like him as the Godfather, he's like my boy, But in this, he still is a young guy. When he opened his mouth in this for the first time, and he still's like, "Hey, I like to go down and do the bowling now," and I'm like, "Oh shit, he actually sounds like that." Like bowling is the most exercising sport, and I couldn't handle it. Man.
Dude,
I love
it so much when he's like, it's a good exercise. It's like, dude, yeah, his voice is amazing. And
it is, but I just wasn't. I thought it was a bit for his older movies. I didn't know that was his real voice.
I think it might be. It's not a bit. It's like exaggerated. Like when like a musician gets on the mic and they just tweak and they kind of like their voice gets like their natural dialect gets pushed.
He's
to
like
a
he
pitch,
pinches
like,
it. It's like a
11.
nasal, but it does.
Right.
He sounds like he's got like a loogie hanging in the back of his throat at all times.
Yeah,
like,
and if you've ever had like listened to an interview with him, it's a different cadence. He talks differently, like. And that's, it's not like a drastic, he's not like a drastic change or anything, but he definitely is exaggerating his voice. I feel like.
Okay, because he's not.
Yeah. It is the same, though. No, I know what you're saying.
It's not as squeaky. Is in
what he's got.
Krypton, is not as.
No,
like,
it's not.
He's not like on the planet of Krypton. He's not like that.
Yeah.
in Superman, but
right.
Still,
but it's very New Yorky. It's like very. It just that's the vibe it gives me. Is like very New York. Oh shit! I wanted to look it up and see if he was actually Polish. I'm like, was he Polish? I don't know. It just felt like this character felt so like lived in. And did you know this was his first role? And like,
oh really? What year did the other one, On the Waterfront, come out? Like shortly after this?
I don't know,
mid
52 or something, maybe 50.
Yeah, that's the other one. I want to really see that now. It's always been on my list. Also, kind of same as this, but now I really want to see it because I'm like, the dude can act, and I want to see it.
Yeah, but he was doing this. He did the stage play, so
I think I did hear that.
So Marlon Brando was the stage play. He played the dude Stan, and then the woman who plays Stella, she is the same actress from the stage play.
That tracks.
And is it Marty or Martin or what's the kind of the nerd dude who works with him and his best friend who dates Blanche?
Is it Martin?
Martin? Something sounds
it's not
familiar.
Mark, but it's something like that anyway.
I have the...
Was he in the stage play too? Because I'm pretty sure, didn't they all win Oscars except for Brando?
Right, yeah. I'm trying to... I just saw who... Oh my God, it went to Humphrey Bogart. It went to Humphrey Bogart for a different movie.
Okay.
Yeah, which is wild.
I know, I was going to say, like, he's... Brando's, like, so known, I think, now, because... we'll talk about it a bit, where it's just, like... Yeah. His like style of acting, it feels very like more raw, I guess, and it does feel more stage as opposed to like was it Vivian Leigh that plays fucking Blanche? She's very much like old Hollywood style acting, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like 40s style.
And she's the
and it makes sense.
She is the reason that she's in the movie is because is it Elia? How do you say the director's name? But whatever. Anyways. Elia.
Yeah, I
Kazan,
guess. I don't
think.
fucking know. Yeah,
Yeah,
Kazan. Yeah, something like that.
Sounds good. Yeah, Kazan. He did he directed the stage play too.
Oh, okay.
So he brought it over.
So they're all
but
just coming
the
over. Okay.
But the studio was like, if we're gonna make this a film, we need a film actress. And the Vivian Long or whatever, Vivian Lee, she's from Gone from the Wind. So
Right.
that
Okay.
brings her to this film and giving her that like huge, big, sweeping performance. And actually, I watched like a bunch of interviews with her and just kind of like a video essay. And dude, I'm like, she's on my list now of filmography. I want to watch all of her movies.
I'm
She
down
hasn't
with
been in
that.
that many.
I like her.
And like her performance blew me away in this. And I've never seen Gone with the Wind like fully.
Same.
You know,
Yeah,
I've seen
same.
like an
It's
hour
one
of
of the
it.
ones where it's like,
you know,
I've seen
like
chunks.
yeah. In film history, you go over it, you know, but it's like I haven't watched it like
Maybe
you know,
one
credit
day.
to credit,
One day we'll watch it when we go through that era specifically, because we will. We'll nail down that. We'll go through and we'll just watch like 40s movies one time.
Right. Yeah. And that's what's so cool is like this is like the play was written in like 47 or something, you know, and performed for all those years, and then in like 50 it got optioned for the film. And so it's like, this is so young, and it's like crazy. Like, it's weird because watching this movie, I thought it was a period piece like that of, what was the one that Sunset Boulevard?
Uh-huh.
Because Sunset Boulevard, isn't that made in like the 60s, but it's supposed to take place in like the 20s? Oh, no, it's not. Never mind.
No, I think that one was
just that's
also
a contemporary one, too.
yeah, because that one, Sunset Boulevard is
she just-
50s, and I think it's supposed to be
And
set
that's
in the 50s. But the character
That's
is
what
like
this movie
stuck
the
in the
characters
20s.
Stuck in the 20s. That's right. Stuck in the silent era. Where this had the same. It had the same feeling to me. I definitely like.
Oh,
it, like this
the,
was like
the lead character definitely
contemporary,
has a lot of
but-
that energy for sure. From
Right.
Sunset Boulevard, the like, like the grander than woman, the
old-
tragic,
the old nobility.
Yeah,
Where
exactly.
she's like, I thought you knew better, you know, and when she's like, you're here with common street trash.
All right, let's pump the brakes a little bit, bud. All right, let's get a quick synopsis for the mom singular, Cindy. Shout out.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna butcher it because did you find out that other guy's name? I'll wing it on the get go, Martin or whatever. So,
It's Mitch.
Mitch, that's right.
It was Mitch. Yeah.
So Blanche, she shows up in this town in New Orleans and goes to this like slightly quote unquote like slummy quarter to go meet up with her sister Stella and Stella's
It's
husband.
the French Quarter, baby.
Is it? I mean, they just talk shit
Yeah.
on it the whole time. They're just like, it's so grimy. I never would have expected me here.
Yeah.
But goes to meet up with her sister Stella and her sister's husband Stanley, and so they're like living in this like apartment complex. This guy above, is it him that lives
Steve,
above?
It's Steve and
It's a different guy that lives
Steve and
above.
Eunice.
Okay, lives with his
Steve
mom
and
or
Eunice,
whatever.
they live upstairs. Yeah.
Anyway,
Right.
it's
Yeah,
like she comes into their lives, and it's like there's kind of like the whole dynamic. God, plot wise, this movie, honestly, I'm gonna butcher it because like
Well, I can.
I watched it in like 4 chunks, so I gotta like remember earlier on how they get into it because it's like it's mostly like most movies. Like the whole reason we picked like movies based on plays, it's like it's mostly character and dialogue. You know what I mean? It's very much just like they kind of have a relationship triangle. She moves in with them, and she's all like down on her luck, and it's sort of mysterious as to like she lost their family home, and then she like quit her teaching job. And so she's just going to stay with Stella and them, but like Stanley is he's a working man, and he's a prick about everything kind of, and loses his temper very easily, and he's an oaf and an ape that she calls him and all that. And
Oh yeah, so many good names.
so good.
A greasy pig.
They have like kind of like it's their relationship is strained because she's there, and then like she meets one of Stanley's poker buddies, Mitch, and he's like kind of softer and sweet and likes her, and she loves attention. That's kind of like her thing. You know what I mean? It's like that's where she gets a lot of her validation from. It's like, oh, I'm so young and pretty and blah blah blah, or whatever. Blanche, and so she kind of gets a thing with this Mitch character, and you find out more about her backstory about how her previous husband had like killed himself, and like possibly because of her and shit she said. And, you know, she's all tragic and shit. And he's like, oh, I'll fix you, baby, or whatever. And meanwhile, Stanley's like, I ain't buying none of your shit because you don't have the right papers for this. Like, everything he sounds like is ass. And, you know, Stanley slaps around his wife, and then he feels all bad about it, and she takes him back. And, but yeah, you kind of find out eventually, too, that it's just like Blanche came from this other town, that, you know, then she had the history of being just kind of like a promiscuous woman, which is like so evil back then. But then she did bang a high school kid because she's a teacher. And so that is not good, you know.
The town wrote a letter and said, hey, that wasn't cool.
That wasn't cool. And so she like pieced out and all this. And Mitch is like, you're too used up. He's like, I'll fuck you, but I can't take you home to mom because you're a dirty old rag or whatever he says. And
he really does, dude.
He does. It's brutal. And it sucks because I was rooting for him too. But everyone is like kind of shitty in this, which is like,
yeah.
But they have all their redeeming qualities too, which I guess was what makes a part of what makes the good characterization.
I mean, barely.
Barely.
Yeah.
I mean, barely, but I can see it. You know what I mean? It's just like,
right.
Like Stanley's a piece of absolute shit.
Stanley also does some pretty disgusting things at the end here.
Yeah,
when
exactly.
You're wrapping it up.
I'm wrapping it up.
He escalates.
So Stella's pregnant. She goes to the hospital finally, and Blanche is having like a full meltdown because of the whole Mitch situation and like her past. And she's like, I lie about everything because I tell things as they ought to be, not how they are, you know, kind of deal.
Yeah.
And but then, you know, Stanley comes home, and they've been at odds the entire movie, you know, and she's lying about like, oh, I'm leaving, I got a telegram, and he kind of like catches her up in it, and he gets an argument. He's always drunk too, and so he gets in an argument with her and is like, yeah, I knew it was all bullshit, and when you say that, I just laugh and all this. And then he goes full psycho and is like being too aggressive with her, and she like breaks a bottle, and she's like, if you come near me, I'll fucking stab your face. And he's like, you would, wouldn't you? You'd love that. And then it's implied that he rapes her, which I mean, like, he definitely does.
Which spoiler alert, he explicitly rapes her in the play.
I mean,
it's like there's no subtlety to it.
They had to imply it because it's 1951, but it's like
they
outright say it without using the word. They're just like, because, you know, sometime later, like, Blanche is still there. She won't leave her room. It's like maybe a couple days later, a week or something or whatever. But like, you know, Stella's like, I can't believe what she says. I have a new baby. I can't possibly believe it. And the other lady upstairs is like, don't believe it. Don't believe her because you have a kid to raise, so you can't be walking around thinking your husband's a rapist. And he's even like, I didn't do nothing to her. And everyone's like, hey, you know, Mitch is like, you did this. And I'm like, also take your part, Mitch. Take your fucking acceptance, you piece of shit. But anyway, some doctors show up to take her away to like a sanitarium because she's just like so hysterical and promiscuous that it's just like, and she tempted a man to force his hand on her. So she needs to go get locked up. And, you know, and it's like she gets, you know, she's fighting the nurse, but then the nice man doctor, because it's like she really does get like the attention of man is kind of like how it's like one of her downfalls is like how she gets her self-worth. And he's like being sweet to her, and he's like, oh, well, I've always relied on the kindness of strangers, you know, to him at the end, which is how it ends.
A great line.
Oh, it's brilliant. It's really good. And so it ends that way with, and guessing on the time period, in my mind, she goes and gets a lobotomy. So
right,
probably,
yeah, exactly, yeah. But, she gets warehoused for sure. That's the. If anything happens, like her sister never sees her again.
Yeah, for sure. And she's too much drama, and it's obviously.
But on like a positive note, hopefully the movie does end in a hopeful note where Stella
leaves
baby,
right last minute,
and she chooses not to go back into the home. So she walks Blanche out to the street, and then she's like, "I'm not going to do it. I'm going to go upstairs." And you kind of hope that like
you hope, but you know,
in the play
she
it doesn't end. In the play, it ends with Stella like going in the house, and like it's like Stella, like, you know, Stella's trapped, and it's a little more bleak.
I still think she is, but
me too, but
it is, you know, it leaves room for hope. But just based on the like themes of the movie and the characters and about how they kind of always fall back into their pitfalls, and it's like they unfortunately, despite their best efforts, are the worst versions of themselves. And it's like that's like the one big thing with Stella too. It's just like, you know, once he's like, I'm sorry, baby Stella, you know, all that, and she's like, she kind of likes it. You know, she goes down and it's like, she loves it.
Are you kidding me?
The look on her face when she's going down the stairs is so
Marlon
good.
Brando,
Yeah.
dude. Marlon Brando laying pipe, baby. Dude,
Yeah.
I don't even.
Yeah.
That's like I loved. So until Marlon Brando raped her, I was like, Marlon Brando's amazing in this movie. Like I love. I don't like.
He
I don't
still
care.
is,
It's
because
like one
when
of those
he
things
in
where,
that
like,
scene, he's a fucking terrifying though.
Oh, dude, he's
When he gets the
in
fucking creepy, like when it gets to that scene.
Yeah, that's such a
He's
bummer,
still
dude.
great.
Because it's like,
Yeah.
I mean, it's fine. It's like that's the whole point. Is like that's his character development. Is just he finally and that's what's kind of cool though. It's like he finally went over the edge. Like the whole time he's been like going up to the line. You know, because even at the beginning they're very flirtatious, and so it's kind of like even for me, I'm like kind of watching this movie and I'm like, oh, this is what film history is, dude. Like trying to kind of like piece this together because you don't really see movies that have this like flirtiness because they're locked behind such a like the Hays Code and this like there's this other thing called the production code, which that's the production code was like the big code that went over like the blankets of all the productions. Right. And then the Hays Code was kind of like the rules, you know, that you were supposed to follow. And so anyways, and that lasted for years. And so watching a movie through that lens, like it's kind of cool where it's like in the play, they could be a little more like blatant about what is happening.
Which still late
say
40s, early 50s. This is
Right.
like pretty heavy subject material for
and
that era.
they got away with a lot. And do you know what I want to know? We watched? I'm sure we watched because in like 1993 or something, I think, or maybe even 2003, something like that, they released like the full edit. Because they cut like 9 scenes out of this movie to get it passed. I wonder.
I'm fairly certain we watched like the Blu-ray release, so I imagine that would be
okay. Then it would be, yeah. The Blu-ray is going to be the contemporary, like you know.
Well, I imagine now
You'll
it's
have that
like
version on it.
it's like you don't want because the other version, the Hays Code is just censorship. It's not like a director's cut, so it's like if they have the full version,
Right.
I'm sure that's all there is now, really. I'm sure you could get the shitty old version, but like you wouldn't. It would be like a VHS copy or some shit.
Yeah, I know. But anyway,
But yeah, I had to
it's,
remind myself that because I was like, as I was watching it too, I was like, this is like right in the middle of the Hays Code. I'm like, there's no way they have like so many of these scandalous implied sex, like fucking like, and she's so promiscuous and had sex with a fucking child and all this. I'm like, there's no way they left all this in that. And so it makes, I don't know what they cut to make it work. They just danced around it because they already kind of do that. And like you say,
they do.
That's like a film history thing where it's like they do dance around like that, like flirtiness. And especially at the time, it's like this is more like the hostile flirtiness, which is like normal back then, I guess.
Oh my god!
Because it's like in every movie.
That's what's so interesting is like, I feel like Vivian had like Blanche was like the main character, and she had a lot of like it's kind of weird. She has this like such a power in the home that Stanley, like Marlon Brando, like. I don't know. I guess that's what it is. That's what I'm saying. He gets to the line because there's so many times where like he's like he wants to be a good person, like you said, in spite of themselves. Like he doesn't, but he drinks and then he gets mean, and like that's kind of the cycle. And it goes.
Well, he's an animal, like she says, like he does,
right.
And that's like you say, that's his character instincts. He like goes up to the edge and just goes to his complete base instincts. And because he finds out that she's like this promiscuous woman, it's like okay. I think he gives himself permission because back then it's like, oh, then she must be asking for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
She's always. I see the way she gives me eyes all the time, and it's like justifies it in his own way.
Which is like.
Which feels fucking real. Feels very real.
From our lens, that's exactly it, dude. It feels like they're making this movie in the time period, and like. I don't think they're quite as self-aware as we would be now making a movie about this time period, or even making a movie about contemporary times. We kind of like we kind of have a better understanding, at least. I mean, I don't know, maybe like, and we show that differently in film, obviously now. But back then, like what they're showing is they're kind of just like they're almost like this is how it is, and it's not like it's like there isn't really a moral to it. It's just more kind of like. This is what it is, and we're gonna present this. But what's crazy, dude? The like IRL behind the scenes, like Vivian Lee is like she had like bipolar, and she was like diagnosed with all of this during the filming. And like she kind of like had a nervous breakdown during this movie because like she had to play this character, and Marlon Brando was like super effing intense on the set. Yeah, and like and this is the big scandal. They got along really well, you know, on like off camera, but they had such a like. They butt heads, and he was crazy, and it's wild, and it's like it's the 50s, so it's like not a great time to be a woman in Hollywood. Like, you're locked into pictures, and it's just like it's really like, you know, actors themselves don't really.
They
have
pay
much
you
control.
with peanuts and shit.
Really though, yeah, and they can kind of do whatever they want to, work you hours. There's no there's no union. So, but anyways, fucking Marlon Brando slept with Vivian Lawn's husband, and in real life.
Wait,
and
what?
Marlon Brando is bi as a guy in a.
I don't know anything about Brando, but like that that one part surprises me, but also not at all. Like I just feel like he's just like whoever takes the dick, you know. Like
there's an interview in like the 70s where he's just kind of like he's like I'm not a homosexual, but I'll fuck a guy.
It's all about that pleasure, baby.
Dude, I'm like, bro, go for it, man. It's crazy because I'm like,
he fucked her husband.
I get it, dude.
That's so brutal.
I get it. Dude, Marlon Brando in this movie, I'm like, he really is like a steam cake, dude. Because I only know him in his older roles, like you said. So it's like, I'm like, oh, he's like handsome, but he's handsome like a Budweiser can.
He is.
Like,
well, because
it's like this is I'm like, oh shit, he's a pretty boy. He is like,
oh, he's gorgeous.
Attractive man.
He is.
It's crazy,
he is.
dude.
Absolutely.
Do you want to know what's crazy? They had to wash his shirts to make them tighter, and then they had to stitch the back so that they would stick to his chest. Dude,
God, you know what's crazy? My fucking girlfriend's out of town. I was just whacking it off to him, but his shirt ripping off.
I know, dude. Every time his shirt got ripped, I was like, oh, I'd like flutter, dude. My stomach would drop.
It's funny because it's like you say, if this was made nowadays, they would make that character, and it's like it would either be he'd be a creep, he'd just be like a creep the whole time and totally hateable, or it, like I don't know, it would be done like in such a way with like a lens that's different. But it is so matter of fact in this movie, and it's like he is like a shitty person and he always lashes out. But I guarantee you that it's just like there is a semblance of like, oh, he's just like he's a hardworking dude. He's like a veteran. He's fucking. Like, he's a union guy. Like, he just wants to come home with his beer and have his fucking woman shut up, you know what I mean? Or whatever. And so it really does paint him in a lens because it's like the whole time I'm like, I didn't hate Stanley because I was like, he's a terrible person, but he's like an interesting character. That's what I like about this and why I wanted to go down the route of watching movies based on plays is because it's like, that's where you get like some of the best writing and some of the best acting. And I think this is like, especially for the time period, like we say, it's like some complex characters with some like dense themes. And it's like very gray areas. Like, I feel like there wouldn't be any gray area now, not as much. It would just be like, she's like, cause she's obviously the victim, but it's like, she is also victimized other people. And it's like, I don't know, it's all over the place. And I really like that because it's just like it feels like that raw human type story, you know what I mean? It did take me a minute to get into it though. Yeah. That's my one thing. It's just like I had to keep stopping it, and I know that's part of it, but it's just like establishing the characters and like them in the situation. It's like, okay, yeah, this is all fine. And so it did take me a minute to like fully come grasping like Blanche's situation when she was like talking about hearing all the polka music, and then like her fucking when it comes out about the boy killing himself and all that, and I'm like, okay, like it's all starting to click, and the Stella scene and everything, their relationship.
Right. Yeah, I mean that's right. Obviously, like getting to know, they do a really good job at like introducing the characters and then slowly revealing it, which is nice. You know, it's like we don't quite know who they are until like hour into it, you know. Right. Truly,
that's why I really like the back half because I was like, oh, okay, this is like the dialogue. It's like less surface. Like it feels like it's getting kind of deeper into these characters and like how they're shallow in like a realistic way. And the depiction of mental health though in this film is amazing. I love the use of like
oh my gosh, whatever, like narration essentially. I mean, I don't even know. You don't really call it narration, but the echo effect where they would talk to her and she'd be like, I heard it, the gunshot, and then you'd have like the gunshot happen and like the music playing just in her mind.
Yeah, it brings you into her like state of mind. It's like I felt frazzled a little bit. I need it
without a flashback. Dude, totally. Oh my god, I know it. She like loves the hot steam, dude. It's like it's aqua therapy or whatever, whatever hydrotherapy the doctors call it. Like, dude, I love. God, okay, I can't. I just like I don't know what it is. I just love the. I love the like 1920s over dramatic I love the old Hollywood actors that like just act their freaking pants off, and it like I don't know, but it's fun. This really is like Sunset Boulevard though. That's the same exact like. It honestly, they're like the same character. They pretty much have the same ending and kind of the same tragic arc through the whole thing.
It's very similar.
They're happy with their new lover, and then they devolve back into their madness, and then they both have that like they both break from reality, and they're just at the end they're both lost in the reality or like break, and now they're in their own reality, and they don't exist anymore, and they're just stuck in their head, and they're just like, you're so kind, thank you, I was relying on the kindness of strangers, and that's like a comment, that's like a line that she's like, at the beginning she says that, she's like, oh, I always use this line, I always I always say this, like she'll say that about other lines, so she's like, I use this line all the time, I say this all the time, and then like at the end it's kind of like she's saying it to be like, all right, I'm committed, I'm just gonna go back to like being a 19-year-old again or whatever, like. So I don't have to worry about being 28 or whatever she was supposed to be playing.
I know, right?
I can't remember how old she is. No, I guess she was supposed to be like 39. She was like probably 39. In real life, she's only 36, but then...
I think she said like she's like 30.
Was it only 30?
I think it was like probably our age.
I think she said you got to keep men... No, she said like you got to keep men guessing, and they have to think that you're 29, but it's like... But in reality, you have to hide your age. And then in this movie, it's like at the end when the paper lantern gets ripped off and it's the bare bulb and you have to see her ugly, haggard face.
I know.
It's like I think she's probably supposed to be 40.
Old
maid.
Like,
yeah, right. Because it's like I love how he's like I don't even mind if you're older, but you're used up like trash. It's like
I know.
It's so good, dude. It's brutal. Dude, that's so. Oh my god, that's what I love. I mean, that is, like you said, it's like this is just we're here to see the characters act and they're doing it and like. I really like this. I didn't know exactly what to expect, and so I'm happy. I thought it was more of a war thing, but I didn't realize it was just kind of like a blue collar dude out of war. And apparently, the play, the two sisters, they're the main characters, and so in this movie, it's kind of like they tweaked it a little bit and focused a little more heavily on Stanley.
Yeah, it still gets side railed a bit, for sure.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, I still think she's a good character and everything, but yeah, it's like definitely like more Blanche and Stanley. Which because I thought this was because I like only know the poster. It's got Desire in the title, so and it's like the poster is like Stanley and Blanche like having a weird embrace or whatever, like a very dramatic shit.
Yeah.
And
right.
So I thought, and especially based on the beginning scenes, because they like show up and they haven't met Stanley yet, and she's like. Oh yeah, here's he is, and all his shiny silver medals. What a hunk! And it's like the way she's like flirting with him early on and stuff before they have all the friction, because it's like he just has friction with fucking everybody. I was like, oh okay, this is gonna be like a love triangle situation where it's like the other sister, the crazier sister comes in and blah blah blah, and it's like he's gonna be the leading man, and it's like he's just like the antagonist, and so it's like when it went. To like shifted gears to her like focus with the other guy Mitch, like it kind of kept me guessing a little bit. Like I didn't expect it to be, as real and raw. Like I definitely expected more of like a predictable. Because watching movies from this era, I do really like them, but we've talked about before. I'm not as big of a fan of like the big overacting. I do like it when I have the mentality of I'm going into that kind of movie, which I did in this. Like it's definitely that era, so I wasn't like surprised by it or anything. If anything, I was surprised with like more of like the mumbled slurry way that like that Brando acted, which is not as common.
Kind of how disheveled he got to be. And it's
in like
this whole thing
quieter and I mean not quiet's not the right word because he's such a fucking loud character, but it's not like as theatrical, I guess, which is funny coming from, like you say, it came from the play. But it does feel like more for film because it's like back then. It's also kind of a funny thing because it's like most movies from this era, we watch subtitles for pretty much everything. They say our generation does too.
I watched this with subtitles because Marlon Brando's mouth is so full of taffy.
I know, right, dude? I sometimes specifically when I watch older movies, I'll be like, oh, I don't have to watch it with subtitles because they're like so pronunciate everything. Everything's very loud. Everything's very clear. There's not like you don't have like subtle, quiet acting or like the mixes are also like focused on what they're saying. So it's like older movies. It's like you don't really need it as much. But so I was like, oh, okay. And then as soon as she's like, I'm looking for a streetcar named Desire, and all this. And when she gets to the bus station, like, help me, sir. And everyone's got like this crazy fucking accent. And then he starts talking. I'm like, I have to turn him on. I can't. I thought I could.
I know. Exactly, dude.
But I don't know. I imagine back then this movie is probably kind of shocking because it's like, it doesn't follow. It's like not like a traditional structure narrative. You know what I mean? It kind of goes a different route. Like it has like the climax and everything, but yeah, it's like it's pretty dark. I don't know. I wasn't expecting.
And that's what I love. I think if you get the like, it's like the Catholic. Here, let me look it up. I had it pulled up, and it was something like the Catholic Legion of Decency. They like picketed this and boycotted it because they were like, you gotta change it. You can't have and it's so funny because they're like I don't want my children to see this movie and get the wrong idea. And I'm like, they had like an argument where they're like, this isn't for children.
Don't let your children like, dude. This has been the age-old fucking question where people are like, oh, Grand Theft Auto is too violent. I don't want my kids playing it. And I'm like, it's literally that's why rating systems exist, man. Like, it's not for kids. Like, parent your fucking kids. That's all.
I think that's such a that to me. I mean, that's why like I did my final project in my film history class on the MPAA because I'm so fascinated with
I remember that
having like it's like guidelines are important. They exist. Like that's. You have to have that because, you need a suggestion because people are idiots and they're not going to know. And it's just to know at face value too. It's like if you see something and it's got like a PG rating, you can say, hey, it's probably safe for my child to see this.
Yeah, I think totally, a rating system
that works, that functions.
Is totally useful, but it's like it's hard to not go farther into censorship, which obviously we always do. The
that's
MPA,
the fine line.
The MPA definitely does.
They do regardless of it's the nature of it. So that's the whole reason you and I complain about the PG-13 schlock that we see in this world because they're like, well, we don't want to go R, and then we're just basically everything's PG-13. Like you can't, except for Conclave. Like every movie's gonna be PG-13 because it's just like if we're gonna watch it at this age range. I mean, from 18 to 100
just
million.
A couple weeks ago, we talked about Constantine and about how honestly it was pretty held back because it was trying so hard to get a PG-13 rating, and so it's like that chase for the ratings to like try and fit a box actively hurt the final artistic direction of this film.
And that's what's kind of fun is like back in the day in this time period, there weren't ratings. They had no true hard fast rating system that we have today.
No, they did like the hardcore Puritan vibes of the 50s of the Hays Code and everything. But people could still get away with stuff. Yeah,
that was it. It was just PG or it was or G. It was like general audience, so anyone can see it, or it was like PG, parents' guidance. Those are pretty much it. Yeah, and so like that was it. And so it's like. You could kind of base it off that, but like it was it's so funny to be like that. Where this is one of those films where I'm like, it's like this would get like a PG-13, maybe even an R rating nowadays, just based on like kind of some of the subject, the violence towards women and like and the sexual nature of it, and
maybe
like the implied rape and stuff.
It might also be just because it's just adult. Like kids don't want to see that. Like it's not like an action thrill ride or anything.
Right. We've talked about that where it's like There Will Be Blood is my biggest example. Yeah. Like that shouldn't be rated R. Why is that rated R? Like it's not like there's violence.
There's definitely violence and it's like the tone of the violence, but it's just like
barely.
My other example is The Lord of the Rings. Like those movies are violent as fuck. You don't realize how fucking violent they are. There's literally decapitations and shit. And that's PG-13.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. But it's like Yeah, but it's more fanciful, I guess, so you can kind of get
it's
away
like
with
a tone,
it.
but yeah, There Will Be Blood is
tone.
an adult movie, and it's like,
but
Streetcar Named Desire is an adult movie, and just because it's like it's a grown-up relationships and the complex. Well, grown-up might be not the right word, but
I know what I mean. Well,
it's like,
and that's something I love. That is one thing I love about the movie. To get back to like the narrative and like the things I really enjoyed is that where like Marlon Brando's character, like Stanley wants to be. Like he wants, he says it. He plainly says it. I'm the man of the house. I'm the king, whatever, the castle. It's what's it called?
Napoleonic Code or whatever.
Napoleonic Code. Like this whole thing where he's like, hey Blanche, you know about the Napoleonic Code? It's when a man's stuff is a woman's, and a woman's stuff is hers. Dude, the fact that he hasn't choked to death is crazy, man. How he eats and acts at the same time.
At all times.
It's bonkers, dude. But anyways, it's like him wanting to be an adult, but like, but he's kind of just that like, petulant man-child.
Yeah.
And but I love his introduction. That's probably one of my favorite introductions of a character ever. Is she goes, oh no, he's at the bowling alley, and they go down to the bowling alley, and he's just in a fight.
They're just like holding him back.
You don't know who he is.
No,
she just goes.
We only know because I'm like, that's Marlon Brando on the poster.
Yeah,
but she's
exactly.
like, it's that hunk over there. You're like,
yeah,
oh.
it's like they're like there's like a mob of guys pulling them apart, and I'm just like. I love it because that right there shows their character, and then through the whole movie, they're always doing that with each other. Like they're and I do find it kind of endearing though. It's like everybody, this is the boys will be boys type of deal where it's like they just get into these like crazy ass fights where they're ripping each other off, ripping their shirts, screaming, saying like the worst things, and then they're just like, all right, Jim, I'll see you tomorrow at work. Or they'll even in the same scene, they'll be like, all right, let's sit down and play poker. All right, we're back to doing the thing.
I know. It's just he's just
like,
so
I just
fired up
woman.
all the time. Yeah.
Yeah. Like
he's
there's
just like
there's
fucking yelling,
so, like,
going in the room, smashing the radio or whatever, like doing all this shit.
Oh my
and then
God,
he's just like, it's
but
your
then,
turn to deal. Just get on with the deal.
Yeah. But I think one of my favorite scenes is at the end when they're having the birthday scene, and it's Blanche's birthday. They're lighting the candles, and he does that's when she finally like she really breaks it down and is like super vulgar to him.
And Stella like actually is standing up for Blanche so much, and he's like, don't talk to me that way. And like,
but then which escalates Stanley to where he like throws the plate down, and that's when it really becomes an escalation before she needs to go to the hospital.
Right.
And he leaves, and that's what's so good too is like in a stage play you can do this. You can have the set where it's like the living or the kitchen and the outside, but in the film it just works so much. I love it, dude. Like, I don't know, man. We've talked about this before. And this was just kind of fun doing movies based on plays to be like, a lot of times the play is done really minimalistic, and that's really cool. But I just think cinematically, like, I know this film isn't quote unquote cinema, but man, the blocking, dude. I mean, that's the thing we talk about
blocking in the
all
era,
the time.
for sure.
The blocking in this is so great, dude. It's like it's
because it's
the
like
greatest thing of the 50s. That's the strongest thing of it.
Yeah, the cinematography is like not flashy at all. You
no,
know what I mean?
No.
But it's like it's
and
not supposed to be. It's like it's not really a shining light, but it's whatever. It's serviceable.
But
it's definitely like one of the weaker parts, and like, but like it's like you got to have that blocking, man.
And it's so good. Like the characters' movement is amazing. But when they leave and they go out into the courtyard and they're having their conversation and like he cools off a little bit and then it's just like that the remorse that he feels at that moment where I'm like, oh man, it's like almost redeeming. And then he does, and then like later in the scene,
that's the thing. It's like
minutes
he
later,
feels...
it's like, but he comes in and he starts picking up the plates and stuff, and it's like this thing where like he knows he's like, oh, I burst. And then it's just like he feels the shame, and I just see that cycle with that.
That's what
with
makes
him
it like
helping to
such
clean
an
up
interesting, complex character. Because I feel like nowadays they like unless someone did it real right, it's like he would just be completely hateable, or he'd be like a snake, like a wolf in sheep's clothing, and then at the end it's like his true colors are shown. But it's like in this, it's like he's a very he's just a very simple, stupid, angry man, and he's a piece of shit. But it's like there are those moments where it's just like he's trying, like even at the end, that's why I was so shocked by like the climax scene is because like he comes back and he's like, this is the happiest you've ever seen him in the movie. Like he's like, I got a new baby. I'm gonna take these pajamas off and wave them around, and I'm gonna be. And he's literally like shaking up the beer and spraying it on himself, and he's just like he's just getting so much joy out of these things, and then it's just like it turns so sinister so fast that and there's like the look on his face when he like it kind of like shifts gears when he's like taunting her, and he's like, oh, you want to play rough? I can play rough. You know what I mean? And it's just like. The way it escalates is intense, but it's just like for a minute there, you're like, yeah, this guy's a fucking, I wouldn't want to be around him, and he's a piece of shit. They're like, but I don't know. Yeah, like it's like they're good. They're all good characters. Like they're well, like right. They're good, well written, 3-dimensional characters. You know what I mean? Which is what
100%
I value very highly.
Yeah, they all have their arcs, and it's fantastic. And I love, dude, like. Just the filming of this actually is like it's the blocking, like it's not. This isn't like the most beautiful film ever, but that when he's just like, I laugh at you, Blanche, ha ha, like that shot was so cool. Like it's like from her POV. Yeah, it's just like it's so imposing, dude. He's terrifying in this. It's like it's great, man. I was so uncomfortable. yeah,
it's brutal. It's sad. I also want to mention the music I really loved. It was not in it very much,
dude.
But it's like that weird jazzy score that's like gets pretty because at the end too it gets kind of menacing. I'm like, oh my god, this music is like
dude
freaking.
Do you
me
know what
out.
I was thinking the whole time? I was like, everybody go watch Birdman, dude. Fucking that is Birdman's got that sick just drummy like Birdman. Just super like it just it like it motivates you the whole time throughout like, every time there was.
It's like at the beginning when she gets off the train, it had like. This noir kind of vibe.
Well, dude,
her getting off
that
the
soft
train,
lighting and all the steam,
and
stuff,
and then like
the
jazz that's like heavy on the horns and the drums, like at the beginning too, where it's just like, okay, what's the tone of this? Because it's like
I didn't know what to expect. Yeah,
because it was like a little bit more menacing, like at the beginning, and then I kind of forgot about it until later when it was coming back, and also being like, because they really only use the score sometimes. It wasn't like. A classical score that's like,
I know, right?
Here's the moment where you need to feel like, oh, they're like having a tender moment. Like it wasn't really there. It was literally like, oh, I hear the polka music and then the gunshot, and it's like, and then like later it's like the intense drums and the horn and stuff when it's like his anger is flaring up. Like it was good.
Yeah, I liked it. And a lot of like diegetic music too.
Right.
There's just a lot of like the street was full of music. The radio. I love that.
Well, it felt very lived
I can't get over like fresh fish, fresh fish.
Dude,
like,
I can't get over the woman handing out fucking like death flowers or whatever.
Death flowers. Yes. Oh my god, that was so. And she's like haunted by it, dude, but she can't like escape it. The woman's just out there peddling her flowers.
I know.
Oh man, dude. Yeah, this movie's like dope. Like, it's got subtext for days, and I appreciate that.
I did really enjoy it. It did make me really want to watch. On the Waterfront or whatever, because it's like that's the other big Brando movie that I have never seen from around the time, and I'm like, yeah, Brando is one of those actors that is like just before our time, because like when did he die? I don't know, like 2000 or something like that.
Oh, dude, it's 2004. That's crazy.
Oh, okay.
I have to see. He acted up until. Oh, I don't know. It's kind of all off the wagon here. Maybe 2001, 99.
He reminds me of the similar trajectory and how I feel about like an older actor that's like kind of a pompous douche, but like a great actor that kind of came into his own is like Orson Welles, kind of in a way too.
Sure, yeah, totally.
But it's like my first exposure to Marlon Brando was probably Apocalypse Now, and then The Godfather, right, which is probably his most iconic. But I'm like, okay, rewatching The Godfather. Like when we did like last year or whatever, I was like, yeah, this guy can act. Like I'm like I always feel like he's like overrated, like one of those actors that everyone talks about, like one of those classical actors that can act from like the fucking 60s and shit. But then like actually seeing all these, it's like, oh yeah, he was great. He's great. Right. The whole cast was great, and it's like he was definitely a standout for those reasons, just because he is so imposing. Like Vivian Leigh. Also, obviously, is Blanche, like you said. It's like they're two acting styles. I'm so down because it's like, even though it felt so perfect for a character. So, let me, because I see. Like I see what you're saying earlier. I'm gonna read Clones of People 2's comment right now because he mentions it. Just because I don't want to ape what he was saying, but I read his comment earlier, and I didn't really think about it so much. But then when he said that, I was like, "Oh, I can totally see where you're coming from." But so he says, "Wait, did we? Is it on here?" Oh, okay. I was like, "Did I even watch this movie?" So I'm gonna do it kind of early. So Clones of People 2 says, "My second watch of this. The last one was years ago, but I don't remember much apart from that. I was not a big fan." This time, I'm not a fan. I find the strength of this film, Brando's acting, is also part of its downfall. Brando's so good in his performance and his acting feels so modern that it makes Vivian Lee's overacting feel dated. There's only so much of her overacting and extended monologues that I can handle, and it caused large stretches of the film to be a chore. Visually, the film was nothing special, and certainly the source material meant that the words were more important than the visuals, but I found it hard to engage for a lot of it. Maybe this is just personal taste because I do like Sunset Boulevard and All About Eve, which have similar melodramatic acting, but this is a 5 out of 10. Maybe +1 for Brando's portrayal of a brute, 6 out of 10 for me. And it's like, thank you for commenting, man, because I can totally see that perspective. But I thought, and like reading your comment made me be like, you know what? Yeah, because like Brando's acting is much more of the like what you would see in like kind of the 60s and 70s a little bit more. Like it is. Yeah, it's not as like big. Like it's big in a different way. I guess.
No, of course
it is big. But
I dare say ahead of his time. For sure. Yeah.
But and I would agree with you. Other than it's like Blanche's character is so like caught up in like the image of like living in the past that it does feel like this movie almost does feel ahead of its time in that way, like very transitional, where like she's stuck in the golden age of Hollywood style of acting, which makes sense because she's stuck like 15 years in her past as a character.
And as her character,
and she's like, I want the magic. I want everything to be the magic in the world. And, you know, maybe I lie and it's because I say things how they ought to be. You know what I mean? It's like she's very this like a drama queen, even though she, you know what I mean? It's like,
yes, but I also feel like there's a subtext that's hard. They don't get into it very much, but through context clues and like through a few conversations, Blanche mentions a lot to Stella that they came from quote unquote nobility. They came from came from a house.
Yeah, that was a big.
They had an estate.
Big part of the beginning where it's like she lost the estate,
right?
And that's kind of when
the estate, and
Brando's feathers start get ruffled at first, you know.
Right, and like
the Napoleonic Code, you know. you
find out the true differences, especially through Stanley's conversation with Stella about how he's like you were on a pedestal and I knocked you down and you liked it here, and that almost like that's a really tough conversation because it's like it's very like possessive, you know, and he's kind of just like he also was like you rely on me now because I provide for you in that you get to live. It's kind of funny how he's like you get to live this sweet life with me, and it's like, you know, kind of because he can plow her. It's like I got a little Barbarella in this when like after they had sex she was in the bed just like like singing a song. Like,
dude, I know.
It's like I'm okay now.
That's what they were protesting. I was thinking of. It's like the fucking. I never seen that in 1951. I mean, they didn't even have a flushing toilet till 60. But you got her fucking Stella post coitus with her hair all fucked up and naked in bed. It's like I'm out protesting. I don't want my kids to see that and think that sex is awesome.
That's sex. I know, right? It really though. It can't. Yeah, it's
the fucking nerve.
That was part of their picketing is like sex is supposed to be portrayed as like a man and a woman making a baby, and so they were kind of okay because Stella was pregnant, and so they kind of succeeded. But her having sex was like that probably did get cut out, honestly, dude, from the original.
It probably did,
but
they probably cut that. It was a little bit too.
That's a great insight. Is that like knocked you off your pedestal? Where it's like they both came from this higher worth. You know, and it just, I think that does like, it leads to her, like, her character feels like her character from Gone with the Wind. Like, it's almost like Vivian Lee is like coming from Gone with the Wind, like is you know, and now she's grown up like 20 years, and now she's, you know,
the whole,
her family died really fast in secession, and she lost everything, and so she was thrown into the Flamingo, and she didn't know what to do. You know, the only thing she could move towards was sex work. Like
I know
the
tarantula's legs. This is where I caught my prey. You know, like
dude, that's so good. That's like, and dude, her transition when she drops her accent and she's speaking plainly and with like that, like just kind of like
not like that weird like romantic flair. She's
right without the romantic flair. That change gave me chills, dude. I like straight up was like, fuck yeah, this is so cool that she's like doing that. And then it's so sad when he comes back from the hospital and she's just in the tiara, like, oh, like everything's fine. Like,
I know.
You're like, oh,
I'm going on a Caribbean cruise. It's like, no, you're fucking not, bro. We know.
I know. She looks like her mascara is like running, and she just looks manic. You're like,
to Clones of People 2's credit, it's like I did say that like. Oh, I think that like the quote unquote outdated acting fits the character, but I don't think they were thinking that in the movie. I think that's us in retrospect. Like I don't think that was intentional. You know what I mean? So it's just like that could have been jarring at the time. They definitely at the time of filming, they probably weren't like, Vivian Leigh, your acting's outdated, but stick with it. And Marlon Brando, you're such a revolutionary. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
At the time, but it's just like it did kind of work out. That's why it wasn't jarring for me, because it's like in the context of just the film, it just works so well for me still. You know what I mean? It's not a problem at all. And is in fact like if she was acting like I don't know, like if she didn't have that, I don't think it'd work as good. Like I don't know, the outlandishness of Blanche fits. Everything's over the fucking top with her. Like she's you know, that's just kind of her character. You know what I mean? And it sucks because it's like. Even though she's often a victim and of things, you know, it's like she's just so drama all the time. Like everything is just like ratcheted up and like, you know, needy of her sister, always taking up the bathroom with the steam, you know, and everything. That's what's good. I know. I wish I had more Stella in it though, because it's like I do like that scene when Stella is giving him the fucking face when she comes down the steps of the apartment when he's out there just with his shirt ripped off. I'm like, that's good acting too, because it's like that's the only time that she has power, and she's like attracted to him though. But he's down there, and it's like the roles have changed, and then she just comes and like, not only just like holds him like you would in a movie, she like fully envelops him and like leans over him, and
rubs her fingers like down his like exposed back.
Yeah,
that had to get cut out because all the Christian parents were just like, Jesus Christ, they're all popping their buttons,
fucking nut in his pants.
Yeah, right. But I have to thank you, Clones of People too.
Yeah, for sure.
I totally get it. Like
I get where you're coming from. This definitely seems
I think I like Sunset more.
Oh,
obviously.
yeah.
Like, I would watch Sunset Boulevard just because of it is more noir-y and like the Hollywood. It's fun, you know. I do, you know. But I don't know. I was really impressed.
I think I was impressed too. I think this is a good way to kick off like the month, kind of, because it is kind of what I was looking for.
I thought this was from '61. In my head for some reason
it feels like it.
Like a '60s
it
film.
does. It feels like
and so, and even watching it, I didn't know the date, and so I'm like, it doesn't feel. That's how come I think I felt like it was a period piece, because I was like, it feels older than it should be, you know, than it should be when it's shot.
Because he's like a war veteran, but he's still so young. You know what I mean? He's like 30,
right? Right. And like the war just ended, dude, like 5 years ago. So it's like from that time period. So it was just so interesting to me. And then I was like, oh shit, 51. That's really good. Yeah, that's great. I mean, even though, you know, Sunset was 50, so it works out. But I think I gotta tell you this though. This is one of my favorite little tidbits in the play. She finishes her joke. So when they're sitting around, they're like, come on, Stanley, tell me when you're funny. Tell me when you're funny stories
she's
to
doing
lighten
like
the mood.
The parrot story.
And then she's gonna tell the vulgar parrot story. Do you want me to tell you?
Yeah, lay it on me.
It's pretty dang fun.
Fun
so
tidbits.
She gets to it. She has this parrot that knows a bunch of vulgarity, and it goes on, and the only way to silence the parrot was to cover its cage with a cloth so that it would think that it was nighttime and it would go to sleep. And you could cover it pretty much any time you want. But the lady after church, she's coming home, and the pastor follows her and wants to have a word. And so she's like, "Oh, let me invite you in." But she realizes that the bird cage is, you know, open. And so she's like, "Oh no, this bird's going to make profanities in front of the pastor." So she goes in, puts the cloth on, and the bird goes, "God damn, that was a short day."
That's funny.
It's pretty good.
That's cute. Yeah, that's cute.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. I would love to see this live. You know what I mean? Like, it's like I like.
Oh yeah, dude.
Like
well,
even now, you know what I mean? Do like a stage play of
There's
this now.
contemporary. There's a contemporary one happening right now, and I saw some YouTube footage of it, and it's pretty cool. It's like literally just on like a square stage, and they kind of do the whole thing that way.
Yeah.
You kind of sit above it, and it's like it was pretty stripped down, but that's what's so cool about this movie is like I think it looks good. I mean, that's the whole thing. It's like I love it. I love the black and white, and I love the old blocking. Like the more old films we watch, I realize how much like I really like blocking more than what we kind of have now, more with like action and crazy. That's how come it's like I love Fincher, you know, and even like like Nolan is kind of doing more.
Nolan's pretty good.
nowadays in
Fincher
action films.
is the fucking master of modern day blocking.
Yeah.
Like he's the guy.
Really. That's what I'm saying. It's like he's like the threshold. Like he's everything you would want. But watching these old movies, I'm like, God, even kind of. I mean, this for Money Minute, real quick. This was 1.8 million to make, and it grossed 8 million. So
yeah, that's pretty good. You know,
did,
50s, man, that's pretty good.
Right, and like kind of it all kind of happened really fast. So it's like this was kind of like flash in the pan. They like did that. The play had popularity, and then
That's smart. They just pretty much brought over most of the people from the play, just smushed them together with the production company side of things, probably.
Which totally shows. And I think having Vivian Long there is like, or Vivian Lee, right? I keep saying Long, but Vivian Lee, like her addition is amazing, and she really did blow my mind. So I'm excited to watch her.
Oh man, sorry. I'm looking at plays here at the Hell Theater, you know, here, and I just missed fucking The Time Machine. Would have been cool.
Oh, dude, that would have been sick.
Yeah.
I love The Time Machine.
12 Angry Men, those next couple months. That'd be cool. Anyway.
Oh, that'd be fun.
No Streetcar Named Desire yet. I'm gonna send him an email.
Yeah. Dude, maybe it'll be Clementine's Streetcar.
Oh, what do you want?
No.
Do you need to go potty? All right.
All right.
Anyway,
guys. That was fun.
I like that movie. It's definitely. I wish, like, I don't know. I wish more people would watch kind of older movies. I feel like so many people are so scared of them. So that's why I even appreciate. You know, closer people too didn't like it, but it's like I don't know. I feel like nobody ever talks about these kind of things that much anymore, unless you're a film nerd. So my fellow film nerds listening to this, I appreciate it. And stay tuned. We don't know for sure what's going to be tomorrow. We're watching more movies based on plays, and so next week it's between right now probably Hedwig and the Angry Inch and 10 Things I Hate About You. So stay tuned. Check out the Reddit. Check out the YouTube. I will post something on there soon saying what movie we will be watching, and so go vote on what movies are going to be coming sooner. And if you have a movie that's based on a play that you want to see, I'll make it on a poll. Just fucking come message us. Come comment wherever you're listening to this, and we'll find it. I'll add it. Or come to the Reddit.
Yeah, even go to our Patreon and make a comment.
Yeah.
When you sign up, put in the comment section when you go in there and be like, hey, I want to watch this movie.
Yeah, there's a free tier now, which I don't know what that gets you, but you can do it for free and just
go for it. Yeah, we don't know how that works,
you can comment for free, I'm sure.
Yeah. I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure it gives us a.
Dude, I don't know if you can see
us.
this dog over there, but she's just standing in the doorway.
Oh,
like she's gonna murder me.
Dude, it really okay, bud. Your room is looking sadder and sadder by the day. There's just like a window screen.
Yeah, I know. Well, it's because my kids keep trying to steal it. Anyway, all right. Well, thanks for listening. We'll talk to you next week. So,
yeah. Thank you guys. Good night.
Bye.